The queen of Shonen Jump has arrived.
Finally!
Undead Unluck's anime just began airing on Friday, and the premiere was amazing. I truly felt like they were able to elevate the source material, just adapting chapter 1, and I really want to talk about that during this video. If you're an anime only, I want to know about how you felt about Undead Unluck. It's a very polarizing series, especially that first chapter. However, no matter which side of the coin you felt about episode 1, I implore you to stick around for the journey. I think this first season's really going to be amazing. You're in for some big turns, you're in for some big twists in a very vast and intricate world and power system that Undead Unluck and Yoshifumi Gotsuka has, put together. And I also implore you to stick around for this video because I'm that guy. Believe it or not, my name's not that guy. They call me Darzus. This is Dovi Days. I would appreciate a like, subscribe if you're new here, and if you're a new anime only fan, hey, anime only fans, I just subscribed to Nami Swan.
What do you mean by that?
Nothing like that. If you're an anime only fan, let me know if there's any details within the beginning of the anime that you would like me to explain. I'm a longtime manga reader of Undead Unluck, and I've got a decent grasp of the series and, the finer details within it. So just let me know if you want to hear about something, a breakdown of any sort of character, system, whatever it may be. So to talk about the opening section of the episode, I have to dive into spoilers. So if you're an anime only fan, I genuinely recommend you skip forward to the next portion of the video or go read Undead Unluck on your own, because this is one of those things where it's genuinely not worth being ruined. It's not worth being ruined, because this is one of those things that makes Undead Unluck special. A moment like this and references like this, which were jam-packed in an anime-only inclusion. I genuinely feel like if Yoshifumi Gotsuka knew where he was going from the moment he pinned chapter 1 of Undead Unluck, he would have included this, because this was one of those inclusions that genuinely elevates the source material to a brand new level. Let me talk about it. So we get Fuuko reading to you from me, this obviously extremely important book, 101 the volume. A wild thing to finally see with a visual representation. This woman searching for this man in the seemingly apocalyptic world. The only two survivors. I wonder how they got there. And we see these random cuts, these flashes to, once again, apocalyptic imagery. Death. Just decrepit stuff. Deific looking woman. A sun. I don't know what it could even just be referencing. You tell me, y'all. You tell me. It's so cool. And the fact that, the GOAT, the one, the only, the future teller, the past teller, the unknown individual who we will never get to understand, pinned this entire thing. And the way that, because he knows the future, and this is really beautiful to think about, the way that the man and woman in this little scene, they're sitting inside of this building that's got, the roof blown out. It looks like a giant spherical object that came through and destroyed a hole straight through that roof. That's the ending of that manga. That is the ending location that they finish at. And the last thing that happens in the manga is literally a kiss on the cheek from the girl to the boy. And the ending of that manga, as Akira Kuno knew, was the beginning of Izumo Fuuko's real life. You know what I mean? That same moment during this episode later on, whenever Fuuko kisses Andy on the cheek, bringing that loco, the moment her life genuinely changed from being that shy little shut-in girl that she previously was to becoming everything she does become. It's such a beautiful way to just tie all that together, the foreshadowing, the references, even just, planting the seeds of the larger problem at bay was unbelievable. I could go on and on about that, but I genuinely think as soon as I saw this and understood it, thought about it after watching it 5 more times, this alone elevated episode 1 to just being better than chapter 1. But there was some changes that still kind of confused me. As we go into Andy and Fuuko's introduction, I really enjoyed the entirety of it, and I count the introduction as Andy getting introduced to Fuuko, all the way down to them jumping down to Andy's hideout, I guess to say. But the beginning of this portion was handled in a different way than I imagined it should have been. The comedy of this entire portion was really hype. I was laughing. We watched this in the Discord together and all of us were a kiki, a ha ha haing the entire freaking time. However, the fact that they took away the crowd from this scene doesn't really make any sense. And I think it even takes away from the comedy of the scene. The fact that Fuuko is up there, like, wielding a knife, trying to get people away, like, hey, I'm trying to kill myself. That stuff would have been funny, especially with the sort of slapstick kind of Tom and Jerry ass humor that they were going for in this episode. I think it really would have been a cool way to just start everything off. And even the fact that the crowd is kind of the ones, the bystanders, they're the ones who direct this entire scene, kinda, just due to the fact that they're the ones who are causing a sense of urgency. There's no real reason for there to be a sense of urgency when only Andy and Fuuko are around, and it kind of confused me why they would take them out, but I guess it's kind of a budgetary reason, along with they just included that very long introduction scene. Or not very long, but you know, certain things being included means certain things have to be omitted, and if this just having the crowd be omitted just for the Andy drinking boba, getting introduced, getting his ability introduced scene, I'm 100% okay with that. But aside from that, I really love this entire introduction scene. It really goes to show how much they care about this series. They put a lot of freaking money, a lot of effort, a lot of detail into every single one of these goofy little scenes of Andy and Fuuko messing around. All the comedy centered around Andy Schmeat this entire episode was just beautiful. Just beautiful. As a male, I will always be laughing at censor bars getting punched like a freaking, I don't know, man. This was just so good. I loved seeing Undead Unluck finally on screen. And I know it was raunchy. Undead Unluck is raunchy. However, it's more so the beginning of the series. It will definitely grow up out of that. It's just like in puberty right now at the beginning of the series. It's definitely in puberty. However, if you've been around Undead Unluck for more than 3 days, I'm sure you've heard of the goofiness surrounding the series, especially in terms of, you know, like bad vibes. SA type of vibes, you know, a lot of the weird unconsensual touching and groping and yada 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 that goes on during episode 1. The type of stuff that guys like us, women like us, people on Dopey Day's channel are not a fan of. However, they handled it with much more tact than I thought they would. The manga is really gratuitous with it. In chapter 1, like, it is emphasized, it is focused on. Whenever Andy gropes a bit of Fuuko, he gropes a bit of Fuuko. Even whenever he goes to the experiment on her, we see him like with like his finger like in her mouth and some like nut stuff. You know what I mean? Some weird ass stuff. However, they chose to omit a lot of that stuff, and if it wasn't omitted, it was just not emphasized as much. Even the portion whenever Andy gets a big old grope right after Fuuko like pours her life out for him. That portion, I think it's cool. I think it's smart how after the initial stage they just kind of like put it. If this is the screen, they put Fuuko and Andy all the way down at the bottom just to make sure, hey, if you're reading this with subtitles on, their subtitles are literally covering this up. But if not, it's emphasizing like the air trail, everything else that's going to happen for the subsequent scene. I'm a big fan of that, just the fact that you can get away from some of it. Obviously, there were still some goofy scenes this episode. Undead Unluck is an anime. Anime in general as a thing is goofy. But I think they did everything as well as they possibly could have with this. But yeah, altogether, I'm really just excited to see the type of tactfulness they tackled that entire debacle with. There was a lot of worries coming out of the Undead Unluck community leading up to the anime, just given the fact that people could be turned off. Episode 1 could literally turn people away, and I think David Productions did as much as they can to adapt the source material 1-to-1 without getting that same outcome. Because I think if they would have emphasized things as much as the manga does, it kind of could have turned out weird. Still can turn out weird. There's still a lot of booty cheek takes on Undead Unluck. Hey, let me know if you guys want a video on the worst Undead Unluck takes out, because I could definitely scour Twitter, Reddit, any of those sort of forums and find some horrible things. I've already been seeing some horrendous things. But as we transition from Andy and Fuuko getting introduced, we got to talk about what goes on at the Hideout. Our boy Kekai Genkai Scargoe, who just gets destroyed. Once they're at Andy's hideout is where the episode came from a 12 out of 10 to a 456 out of 10. Like, the episode genuinely elevated right here. The scene whenever Fuuko is getting chased by Andy and accidentally slips, her whole hair gets unfurled. Relationship development, woman development, man development, everybody right there was developing, progressing, growing for each other. A moment where they become more intimate, more close, more bonded. I really love that, because that's the thing with Undead Unluck. This romance that the series genuinely really centers around grows into something so beautiful. Like something that's made me shed the gangster tear at times, something that's made me, fall in love with a fictional couple. And it starts right there. It really starts at these moments whenever like he really sweeps her off her feet, as he did in the building, as he does when he cuts her hair for her. And it's so just cool to see how Fuuko, this thing which like literally made her bawl her eyes out upon Andy seeing it. She tries to hide her hair so much, slight spoiler, she takes that idea and turns it into a weapon of mass destruction. Azuma Fuuko is really the queen of Shonen Jump, the most badass woman out, and I pray to God every single instance of her, every single chapter of her life gets animated someday. So once episode 1's resident cannon fodder shows up, it was amazing. Scarboy and the gang, this entire scene was handled much better than I imagined it could have been. So, there's a bit of a retcon in the manga if you're not aware of it. Like, I imagine if you're an anime only. If you've read the manga, you know it's kind of goofy what occurs in episode 1 or chapter 1 whenever Andy pulls the card out of his head. As you saw anime only, his hair starts to grow out longer. Apparently, there is some mental capacity, some memories, which he doesn't have capacity for. So he has to keep that card within his brain in order to, you know, hold back some of that stuff. But when he lets it out, it comes out. I'm not going to go too further into details about that. However, even the fact that he takes that out of his head is weird, considering things which happen later in the series. However, the way they handled it here was really freaking dope. I think the only reason, if you're a manga reader, I think the only reason still why potentially nothing happens whenever, well, the full thing doesn't happen whenever he takes the card out of his head is because he still has it in his hand. Since it is an artifact, I'm just going to say that, since it is an artifact, I think it does have maybe powers to at least transmit itself through touch, but it maybe has to be implanted within his head to completely, you know, do its full work. If you listen though still, if you listen to Andy during his transformation after taking that card out of his head, you will hear a double layered voice. And if you're an anime only fan, that's all I'm going to say. And if you are a manga reader, you freaking know. That was such a good way to retcon the retcon, fixing something in a way which I still think it's a goofy thing, but it had to occur for chapter 1. I don't know how else they're going to do it, unless they just have Andy just go... They kind of had to show that he was a weaker form of himself, potentially, is all I got to say about that. But that scene, I hope that showed y'all, if you're an anime only fan, that Undead Unluck's power system and fighting styles get really dope. Not only is Zumo Fuuko over here dropping lightning bolts on people, dropping fucking meteors on people, but our boy Andy, at will, is able to just blow parts off of his body, use his blood as propulsion blast to fly all over the place, generate weaponry with said blood. He's able to do whatever he wants, and the rule undead is nothing but a rule. Just that. And I guess the negation of a rule, because Andy in the Undead Unluck world, everything about it is all about perspective. It's all about your understanding of things. And Andy himself, through his years, has obviously grown a lot. The understanding of undead to whatever capacity he has it at is so amazing. I love this episode. It really kind of reinvigorated, I guess to say, my love for Undead Unluck, even though I love this series more than anything. There's not many other mangas in general, especially Shonen at least, which I care about that much. But this whole episode was just done so gracefully, with so much effort, with so much care and love and attention to detail that, like, I'm just really freaking excited for Friday. If y'all are excited for Friday, maybe pull up to the Discord and join us for a viewing of that god darn episode, because it's gonna be another fucking fun time. Next episode, you know, I'm skipping over the end of the episode even too. The getting named and whatnot, very cute. I love how they actually had the name drop cards of Unluck and Undead Unluck at the end of the episode, so that I hope they continue that throughout the series. Because if you're not, if you're an anime only, once again, some of the most hard-boiled moments in Undead Unluck come with a giant freaking title card drop, and that's all I gotta say about it. Just like the Undead one, just like the Unluck one, you'll get to find out more negators, more people, and like this series just has a lot going for it. The scenery that they were able to put together for this episode was so wild. Whenever they were in Shinjuku, I think it was at the beginning, like, why did that look so good? All the buildings are just so vibrant. At the end of it, they definitely changed up all, like, the settings, too. The fact that whenever they're in Andy's building, it looks really god darn dope. But after the meteor, like, they're standing in this, like, big place with the fountain and whatnot. Like, dude, Why are they so good at what they're doing? I'm in love with Undead Unluck, bro. I'm in love with Undead Unluck. Production. First thing I want to talk about, because gosh darn it, David Productions, Jeepers Creepers. You blew it out of the water. That was not something I was worried about, the production values of what Undead Unluck the anime was going to be, but I just was blown away. Did not expect anything to look this good, and I gotta make it clear, this was a pilot episode. #1 episode, the premiere, so it could be more embellished, more, visually stunning than the rest of the series, which we're gonna get to see. However, from what we saw in episode 1, if it's even, a fraction of what we get in the future, like, we're just in store for a freaking treat. The various visual styles they use, the various color palettes they were switching in between, like, on the fly. Think back to whenever Fuuko falls off the building and it goes to this very dark, bleak view, like, from her perspective. She's realizing that she doesn't want to die, and then Andy comes down, this colorful beam of light that just had been introduced to her light, swoops the book, jumps down, beams through, like, some hard-boiled stuff. Everything about the art direction was just amazing. You know that Yuki Yase is not a slouch, and it really showed during this episode. Not even just the visual art, the sound design was impeccable. If you haven't watched this episode with headphones in, I really recommend you do that, because there's so many cool details to pick up on. I'll be talking about at least one of them during this video. However, just listening to, like, the vibrations of Andy's skin just, like, morphing together, and just, like, all of this very deep, cool sounds. And I said that during the trailers, that it sounded like we were going to get this sort of Fire Force effect, the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure effect, where, like, all these very unique sounds, which are, like, very much so tied to Undead Unluck, will be implemented into the anime. And I really feel like we're getting that attention to detail, and we're getting that sort of unique identifications of what Undead Unluck is going to be. I don't know how to explain it in the best way, but I'll come back with some better words throughout this season at some point. And the last thing I want to mention production-wise is the music, because it was obviously amazing. Queen Bee 01 at the end sounded so freaking good, and I just lied to you. I also got to mention Mokuhara, Yuichi Nakamura. You guys blew it out of the freaking water, especially Mokuhara, a very, inexperienced voice actress, but she murdered it. Her performances were just so varied, so emotional, and, like, I really just felt like Ozumo Fuuko was right there talking to me. Even, like, I think her best performance in the entire episode is at the beginning of the episode during her reading To You From Me. Whenever she's, like, literally acting out the boy and the girl, I was like, dang, Fuuko, I be doing the same thing in my brain while I'm reading the manga, but she's doing it out loud. I feel my girl. The music, again, beautiful. Everything production-wise. Pray to God that we just get a fraction of this going forward, but, like, it was a 12 out of 10. Once again, if you're an anime only and you've made it here, don't know why you did. Let me know if there's anything you want me to cover in detail, because during, like, video discussions on the episode itself, I will not go into detail. At least on, like, points that are in the anime. I will go into points on, like, references that, like, us manga readers can rejoice in and stuff over, but personally, I don't think it does me justice to make a breakdown of each episode, because, like, bro, I've read Undead Unluck way too many times to just, like, recap it like that. I would recap arcs and stuff, but not episode by episode, dog. Not that. So I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all for pulling up once again. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are. Gotta edit this, and do a bunch of other stuff. So hasta luego, mi amigos.